Do you want your next real estate transaction to be a smooth and successful experience? On this episode of the Happy House Hacking Podcast, we are going to share why exclusive agency is the key to making that happen. Hello, and welcome back to the Happy House Hacking Podcast, the podcast designed to help young people navigate the path to happy home ownership. We are your hosts, Owen and Camille Schwagerly. We are realtors, investors, and happy house hackers. On today's episode, we're going to talk about buyer agency agreements, traits to look for in a buyer's agent, and questions you should ask. So let's dive right in. Buyer agency agreements. What are some traits that you want to look for in the real estate agent that you choose to hire?
One of the biggest things you need to look for is local market expertise, right? You want to work with someone who's in the market, who lives in the area, and understands what a good deal is. You know, the last thing you want is to work with an out-of-town agent who's never been to your area of choice before, doesn't have local connections, and just can't advise you on whether or not it's a good purchase.
So true. And then you want someone who has strong communication skills, someone who's going to keep you in the loop and keep you informed. And, if they're not getting back to you for a couple of days, that's probably a red flag. And they may be too busy. They may not actually treat their business like a business. They may not have the capacity to take you on and service you. So you want to make sure, number one, that they are clear in communicating with you and that throughout the process, you're getting updates. You know what's going on with the listing agent, with the sellers, with their house, the situation, because throughout the whole process, communication is absolutely key to a successful closing.
Yeah, and that's also a good point too. Is the agent you're interviewing, are they a full-time agent or are they a part-time agent? Because that's a big difference maker. If you are not full-time in the business, living it day in, day out, then you aren't going to be treating your business as a business, right? You want to be able to service your clients well, and you only do that if you're full-time, not if you're a part-time agent and then you work at a restaurant the rest of your time. You know what I mean? You don't have the ability to really care the same way that a full-time agent will.
Yes. Another trait to look for in the agent that you're going to be hiring is someone who's patient and has empathy. So there's someone they're going to match your pace. If you're in it just to start browsing, learn about the process, you want to make sure that they are going to be patient with you through that process. Also, are they going to take the time and the care to sit down with you and communicate to you about the buying process? So many times we see agents don't actually do a buyer consultation before they start showing property and going out and looking at homes. And that's a disservice to their client because that client may not know what's going on locally in the market. They may not know about some new laws that have come into effect that may be costing money to a potential homeowner if they have to do some repair or mediation, or there could be a litigation or a lawsuit in a development that people don't know about. So before you dive into the market, you want to make sure you have a good understanding. And a great agent is going to be patient with you and communicate, and then also educate you on what to expect.
Right. The last thing that a buyer wants to feel is rushed into a purchase. You know, we've worked with clients who saw one house, wrote an offer, bought it, and closed within 30 to 45 days. And then we've also worked on the other side of the spectrum where it takes a couple years, and both are totally okay. It all just comes down to communication. Is your agent willing to work with you the whole step of the way? And are you going to communicate with them to say, hey, this is my timeline. I need you to be patient with me as I work through what I need to do in order to buy my house on my own timeline. So a good agent is always going to make their timeline match your timeline.
And then another key component is negotiation savvy. How well can this agent negotiate for you? And that's really important because this person is going to be helping you purchase a very large, expensive asset. And so you want to make sure that they're looking out for you and for your financial best interest throughout the negotiating process. So
Right. Yes, that's a big one. You can always ask agents that you're interviewing for proof of their track record. So, for example, let's say you're looking in a specific town, you could ask that agent how many homes that they've sold in that area and represented the buyer on. What was their list to close price? So maybe they wrote an offer at asking price, but it sold for $10,000 less. And that's because in the middle of the transaction, they were able to negotiate on behalf of their client to accommodate for repairs.
Right. In one recent transaction, we helped negotiate $25,000 off of the price. We also helped negotiate a couple of extensions that were needed in order to meet timelines for the sale to move forward.
Right. And that brings me to another point, too, which is a full time agent is going to have a lot more agent connections. So that way, if that agent's representing you as a buyer and there's a home you're interested in that's listed by someone else, that agent is going to be in good rapport with the cooperating agent to make sure it's a win win transaction. Because the last thing you want is to be working with someone who's not going to communicate with the other party, too. It's one thing to communicate well with you and another to cooperate with the other side well.
Right. And you want an agent who's resourceful and is good at problem solving. So if this is the first time this agent has ever done a transaction, just be cautious. Make sure that they have a coach or a mentor guiding them through the process, because the last thing you want is to be in a situation where you're represented by an agent who's inexperienced and doesn't know how to overcome problems. And those problems could cost you tens of thousands of dollars on your transaction.
Yeah, that's that's a problem. It's so important to just be asking all of these questions when you're in the interview stage with the agents that you're talking to. And it's so critical to establish an exclusive agency relationship, because once you are exclusive with an agent, they are going to work their tail off for you because you are loyal and committed to them. So, for example, let's say that agent goes on a listing appointment and they meet with a seller who wants to list their house in a few weeks or a month. You are going to be one of the first people the agent calls and says, "Hey, guess what? I have this new listing coming up in the neighborhood you want to be in. Let's go check it out. Let's talk about it. Let's see how we can make this work." And then you are getting that access immediately.
Yeah, it has been a while now since the change in the real estate industry with the decoupling of commissions. And what we're seeing is it's actually been going great. People are adapting, people are overcoming the challenges, the adversity. Agents are still cooperating, offering concessions to help buyer agents cover their fee. So even though the commissions have been decoupled, we're still seeing sellers help contribute almost all, if not the majority of the closing costs to cover the buyer agent fee most of the time. So, with that being said, exclusive agency is so important because you want to make sure you have that agent representing you, because you don't want to be in a situation where there could be conflicts of interest due to dual agency. Now, dual agency is where sometimes buyers will go direct to the listing agent thinking, "Oh, I'm going to get a better deal. If I just go straight to the seller or the listing agent, I'm going to get a better deal." However, the listing agent was hired by who? The seller. They have a fiduciary duty to the seller to help them negotiate the highest and best price possible. And since we've decoupled, it's made it even more clear that the buyer agent's role and responsibility is to represent the buyer. So if you want an advocate, someone going to bat for you and negotiating on your behalf, that's the importance of exclusive buyer agency.
I have seen so many positive things come out of all the changes. And granted, there was a loyalty to a certain extent, but now loyalty is even more clear that, yep, this is my agent. I'm going to an open house. This is my agent. After I go see it, I'm calling them up and we're going to write an offer. And whatever it looks like, it's so clearly outlined, especially in the California contracts, that it's just been clear as day from the get go. So, our encouragement to you as you're interviewing agents is to establish that exclusive agency relationship and make sure that this agent is fighting for you every step of the way.
Exactly. You want to make sure that they're giving you the leads that they're coming across off market, and they're not going to do that if you're non-exclusive. If you're working with multiple agents and they know that, they're going to go to their exclusive clients first before they share that deal with you. So work with a great buyer agent in the area you're looking in, and you're going to get access to more great deals.
Well, thanks so much for tuning into our show today. We're so happy that you were able to join us. We are all about exclusive representation. So if you have questions about it, feel free to reach out.